There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel like absence. It feels like origin. It's not the silence of an empty room or a pause in conversation. It's the kind of stillness that was here long before you were born, before any sound or breath or thought ever arrived. And somehow, it's still here, softly alive beneath the surface of everything you do. You may not notice it in the rush of the morning or in the noise of errands and emails, but it's there, like the sky behind the clouds, quiet, unchanging, patient. Modern life has taught us to forget that silence. We've been trained to believe we are separate from each other, from nature, from spirit, even from ourselves. We're told we're a personality, a job title, a history, a body moving through time. We learn to identify with thoughts, memories, emotions as if they are us. But what if I told you that's the greatest illusion of all? What if you are not the thoughts? What if you are not the identity you've been defending your whole life? What if you are the one who sees it all, not from a distance, but from within? You see, there's something ancient watching through your eyes. Not your opinions, not your name, not your story, but something deeper, something that doesn't speak in words, but understands everything. It doesn't judge, it doesn't rush, it doesn't need to be anyone, because it already is. That's not philosophy, that's not religion, that's awareness. And it's not something you achieve, it's what you are, right now, as you're listening before the thoughts rise. Before the next sentence forms, there is already a presence here, and that presence is you. We're so used to identifying with the movement, the thoughts, the worries, the plans that we forget the space they rise within. It's like watching a river and thinking the water is all there is, but not noticing the still banks that hold it, the depth beneath the surface, or the infinite sky above reflecting back. You are not the river. You are the presence holding the river. This silence I'm speaking of, it's not lifeless. It's the most alive thing there is. It's the womb of all creation, the space where inspiration appears, the pause before the first note of a symphony, the breath before the eye arises in the mind. And yet how easily we overlook it. Why? Because the mind fears stillness. It can't control it. It can't measure it. And so, it dismisses it as unimportant. But that's the great paradox the moment you turn toward that stillness. Not because all your problems vanish, but because you are no longer tangled in them. You become the witness, not the struggler. The space, not the storm. The sky, not the cloud. And in that shift, everything softens. You no longer feel the need to prove, or perform, or perfect. You just are. And for the first time, that's enough. This isn't about escaping the world or denying your humanity. On the contrary, it's about remembering your divinity within it. The world still moves. The body still ages. Emotions still come and go. But there's a part of you that remains untouched by it all. That's the part I'm inviting you back to. Not as a goal, not as a lesson, but as a homecoming. This is not theory. This is remembrance. You've already known this silence. In the middle of grief, when words failed but presence remained. In awe of nature, when you felt small and infinite at once. In moments of surrender, when you stopped trying and peace simply arrived. Those were glimpses. This is the invitation to live from that place. More often, more fully, more freely. Not by effort, but by awareness. Not by doing, but by being. So the next time your thoughts try to convince you that you're not enough, pause, take a breath, feel what's already here, before the noise. And know without needing to understand that you've never been separate from life. You are not the one watching life. You are life, watching itself. 1. The observer is also the observed. Sometimes, when you sit quietly, no phone, No music. No need to be anyone. You might feel something strange, like life is watching you back. It's subtle, but undeniable. You're sitting there, watching the trees move, listening to the hum of the world around you, and somehow, it's as if the trees are watching you too. As if the wind isn't just blowing through the leaves, it's passing through you. As if life isn't happening to you, but through you, and as you. And it's not because you're imagining it. It's because, at the deepest level, the line we draw between me and not me is just an idea, a habit, a mental shortcut. But reality doesn't have those lines. You were never separate from the stars you admire. You were never outside the world. Looking in, you are not a little self behind your eyes. Watching life like a movie. You are the screen, and the light, and the story unfolding all at once. This is hard to grasp when we've spent our whole lives believing we're just the observer. We watch the sunrise and call it outside. We feel a thought and say, "This is mine." We feel emotion and believe I am this. But what if the one witnessing the thought, the one noticing the emotion, the one feeling the breeze on the skin, isn't just watching the world, but is the world in motion? What if the wind you feel on your face is the same life that breathes through your lungs? What if the consciousness behind your eyes is not separate from the consciousness behind mine? There's something ancient about this truth. You won't find it in textbooks or debates. You won't get to it through logic. But if you've ever held the hand of someone dying, or watched a child be born, you've tasted it. That sense that what we call you and me is paper thin. That behind the names, the faces, the roles, we are the same. Quiet presence. The same field of awareness, expressing itself through different shapes. In physics, they call it the unified field. In spirituality, we call it oneness. But it's not a theory, it's not a belief, it's an experience. And once you've felt it, even for a moment, you can't unsee it. There's a reason you feel peace when you look at the stars. It's not just beauty, it's recognition. You're not admiring something foreign, you're remembering something familiar, because you are made of stardust. Yes, but more than that, you are the awareness that saw the stars into being. You are not looking at the universe. You are the universe, looking back at itself. That's why we long to be seen. Not just to be noticed by others, but to be seen by ourselves. From that deeper place that doesn't judge, doesn't label, doesn't rush. And when you meet someone and feel instantly safe or deeply moved, for no logical reason, it's because the observer within you recognizes the observer within them. The same stillness, the same spark. That recognition is not sentimental. It's sacred. So, what happens when you start living from this place? When you stop pretending to be separate from what you see, everything changes. You no longer need to fight the world, because you are the world. You no longer fear being unseen, because you see yourself. You no longer feel small, because you realize there is no small. There is only this vast, silent awareness taking form for a little while as you, not as something to escape, but as something to remember. You are not just the observer of this life. You are the observed. You are the space. You are the wind and the witness. You are the one being watched by something within you that never sleeps, never speaks, and never leaves. And once you recognize that, you stop trying so hard to hold everything together, because you realize you were never separate to begin with. 2. The voice in your head is just an echo. There's a voice that lives inside most of us, and it never seems to rest. It talks when we wake up. It comments while we walk. It judges, plans, doubts, prizes, and worries all in the same breath. It says things like, "You should be better by now," or "Why did you say that was stupid?" Or even, "Everything's going to be okay, maybe." But here's the quiet truth. That voice isn't you. It might sound like you. It might use your memories, your fears, your vocabulary. But what it really is a collection of echoes. Echoes from your childhood. Echoes from things you were told and didn't know how to question. Echoes of teachers, parents, culture, media repeating the same story over and over again until you forgot it was a story. That inner voice is not your soul. It's not your intuition. It's not even your wisdom. It's a recording, a habit of thought that plays so often it feels like identity. And the tragedy is, most people never stop to ask, who's actually speaking? You see, the mind is like a well-worn record player. It plays what it's been given. If you grew up with criticism, the voice becomes a critic. If you grew up around fear, the voice becomes cautious, hesitant, afraid to try. If you were praised only when you performed, it becomes a perfectionist. But none of this is your fault, and none of it is fixed. The voice in your head is not the enemy. It's just confused. It was built to protect you. It tried to make sense of a world that often didn't, but in its attempt to protect you, lost the sound of your own presence. You lost the silence beneath the commentary, the awareness that existed before the voice ever began. And that awareness, that's you. Not the you with the name and the job and the history. The real you, the one who hears the voice, who notices the pattern, who feels the tension in the body when that voice gets loud. That noticing is freedom. Because when you can notice a thought without becoming it, everything softens. It's like watching a train pass by. Instead of boarding it every time it comes, you don't have to believe every judgment that arises. You don't have to argue with every fearful prediction. You don't have to fight to silence it either. Just see it for what it is, a sound from the past, echoing through the hallway of now. The mind wants certainty. It wants control. It wants to narrate your life like a film it already knows the ending to. But life is not a script. It's not a formula. It's an unfolding mystery. And you, at your core, are not the one narrating the story. You are the presence receiving the story. You are the screen on which it plays. You are the stillness between the words. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to get rid of the voice to be free. You just need to stop mistaking it for you. Let it speak. Let it ramble. Let it rehearse and replay. But don't build your life on its fear. Don't limit your joy to its approval. Don't shrink your dreams because it's afraid of falling. The voice can comment, but you get to choose whether you listen. And the more you rest in presence in this quiet, observing awareness, the less power that voice holds. It becomes background noise, like a distant radio playing in another room. You hear it, yes, but it no longer runs your life. This is what it means to wake up, not to become someone else, but to stop confusing the echo for the truth, because you, the real you, are not old, not broken, not limited by any past belief. You are always new, fresh in every moment, untouched by the dust of yesterday. So the next time the voice says, "You can't," smile gently. And remember, the voice may be loud, but your awareness is deeper. And in that space beyond words, you don't have to fight. You just have to listen to what's still here when the echo fades. 3. You are not your thoughts. You are the space they pass through some days. The mind feels like a storm. Thoughts swirl. Doubts rumble. Memories flash like lightning across your chest. And it's easy to believe that the storm is who you are. It's easy to get swept up in the waves, pulled into old patterns, fears, or imagined futures. But pause with me for a moment. Step back. Close your eyes just for a second and ask yourself, if I can observe my thoughts, who's doing the observing? The answer isn't loud. It doesn't come in words. It's more like a quiet presence that simply notices. That noticing is not a thought. It's not a reaction. It's not part of the storm. It's the sky. You see, Your thoughts are like weather changing, moving, sometimes sunny, sometimes dark, but the sky never changes. It holds space for all of it, without needing to control or fix a single cloud. You are not the weather. You are the sky. That's not just a metaphor. It's a lived truth. A truth you've already touched, even if you didn't have words for it. Maybe you felt it in a moment of heartbreak, when everything fell apart and yet something silent inside you remained. Maybe you felt it in nature, watching waves crash against the shore, feeling the deep, knowing that life continues, no matter what. That part of you, the unchanging, untouchable space behind the thoughts, is your true nature. It's not disturbed when the mind gets loud. It doesn't panic when fear arrives. It doesn't celebrate when praise comes or collapse when criticism hits. It simply watches, and in that watching is peace. Most of us live trapped inside our thoughts without even knowing it. We believe every story the mind tells. We identify with every role it assigns: the achiever, the failure, the victim, the hero. And we run ourselves ragged, trying to protect or prove these identities. But the truth is, your thoughts are not facts. They are not you. They are passing patterns, flickers of energy shaped by memory, emotion, and perception. You don't need to silence them. You don't need to argue with them. You simply need to return to the space where they appear. Like watching leaves float down a river, you begin to see thoughts for what they are: ephemeral, temporary, not worth clinging to. And the more you rest in that space, the sky behind the weather, the freer you become. Because in that space, nothing is broken. Nothing needs to be earned. You don't need to explain yourself or figure it all out. You simply are. And that being, that presence, is not small. It's vast. It's quiet, but powerful. It's soft, but unshakable. Thoughts will come. That's natural. The sky doesn't panic when clouds roll in. It doesn't say, "Oh no, I've failed. The sun is gone." It just allows. Can you do that for yourself? Can you let your thoughts pass through without giving them a throne to sit on? Can you remember that even your worst thoughts don't define you? They are guests. You are the house. And in this house of awareness, everything is allowed to enter, but nothing is forced to stay. This is the beginning of liberation. Not the kind that looks grand from the outside, but the quiet kind. The kind that lets you breathe a little easier in your own skin. When someone says something cruel, and instead of reacting, you feel the space between their words and your worth. When a fearful thought arises, and instead of spiraling, you pause and remember the sky. When your old wounds echo back, and instead of collapsing, you hold them gently in awareness. That's the shift. That's the miracle. And the best part, you don't have to earn it. You don't have to become someone new. You just have to notice what's already true. Right now, beneath the thinking, beneath the planning, beneath the commentary, there is a presence. It is still. It is whole. It is you. You are not the thoughts moving through the mind. You are the space wide enough to hold them and let them go. And when you live from that space, life doesn't need to be perfect anymore, because you remember the sky was never broken. 4. Pure awareness is universal. Sometimes I sit alone and watch the light through the window, and I think to myself, how strange it is that what I call my awareness feels so deeply personal, and yet it's never truly belonged to me. It doesn't age with my body. It doesn't carry my name. It doesn't wear my past. It's just here, quiet, alive, unchanging. And then I look at someone else, maybe a stranger passing by, or a friend across the table, and I realize that same quiet presence is behind their eyes. 2. The way they pause before speaking, the way they sense without words, the way they listen not just with their ears, but with something deeper. That awareness isn't separate from mine. It may seem like it is, Because we're used to thinking of ourselves as individual islands. But if you go beyond the surface, beyond the stories, beyond the thoughts, what's looking through your eyes is the same thing that's looking through mine. It's not personal. It's not bound to the body. It's not born. And it doesn't die. It's the one, awareness, expressing itself through many windows, like sunlight pouring through stained glass. Each window has its shape, its color, its cracks, but the light itself, it's the same. This realization doesn't come from philosophy. It doesn't need belief or agreement. It's something you feel deep in your bones when the mind quiets and you come home to the now. When you stop trying to be someone, you notice that there's something far more peaceful waiting beneath that effort. Not someone, but something. Something fast. Something present. Something that was never confused. Never afraid. Never broken. And it lives in everyone. That's why when you hold a newborn baby and look into their eyes, you don't see their resume. You don't see their race, their opinions, their pain. You see presence, stillness, truth. And when someone you love is dying and all the words have run out, what remains between you is not identity. It's presence. That's awareness. And it doesn't belong to any of us, because it belongs to all of us. And maybe that's why we feel so homesick in this world sometimes, because we've been taught to live only from the surface, our roles, or différences, our personalities. But deep down, we're not different at all. We're waves in the same ocean, flames from the same fire, eyes through which the universe is seeing itself. You are not a separate consciousness, floating in a private bubble. You are a unique expression of a field so vast, so intelligent, so loving it holds galaxies inside it, and yet also holds your breath. The field isn't out there. It's right here. Reading these words, listening with your heart. This is why compassion feels so natural when you're not defending your story. This is why stillness feels like truth, even if your mind doesn't understand it. Because at the level of awareness, there is no other. There is only us. There is only this sacred, shared being, appearing in many forms, but always returning to the same still point inside. You can call it God. You can call it source. You can call it awareness, or life, or simply here I am. The words don't matter. What matters is the knowing, the soft, wordless knowing that says, I see myself in you, and not in a poetic way, in a real way. When you feel this, when you really let it land in your body, something opens. The tightness around your identity softens. The urge to fix, or chase, or prove begins to dissolve. Because you're no longer trying to be someone special. You're just allowing yourself to be what you already are. And suddenly, the person in front of you isn't a stranger. They're not competition. They're not a role to play or a mask to manage. They're just another doorway into the same eternal light. So the next time you're tempted to feel alone, or disconnected, or unworthy, pause. Take a breath, and remember, the same awareness that held you in your mother's arms is holding you now. The same awareness that watched the stars form is watching you think. And the same awareness looking through your eyes is looking back at you through every face you meet. You are not alone, because you are not separate. 5. Conditioning is not your essence. When you were born, you didn't carry any labels. No judgments, no history, no stories about what you could or couldn't do. You were simply here, awake, open, alive. But over time, the world began to speak to you. It taught you your name. It told you how to behave. It showed you what was good and what was bad. It rewarded certain parts of you and ignored or shamed the rest. Without knowing it, you began to build a mask piece by piece, a personality shaped by culture, family, religion, school, media, trauma, and survival. And the more you wore that mask, the more you forgot there was anything behind it. That's how conditioning works. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in small ways, like the voice that says you're not good enough, even when no one is watching, or the fear of being too much, because someone once told you to quiet down, or the belief that love must be earned, because you were taught it could be taken away. And the thing is, none of that was your fault. You were a child. You didn't know how to question the world. You absorbed what was given, because that's what young minds do. But now, as an adult, you have a sacred opportunity to pause, to look gently at the mask, and to ask, is this really me? You might be surprised at what you find, because so many of the beliefs you hold about yourself, about your limits, your worth, your role in this life, are not truths. They're stories, inherited stories. Stories passed down through generations of people who were doing their best, but were carrying masks of their own. Just because a belief feels familiar doesn't mean it's true. Just because a thought has been repeated 1,000 times doesn't mean it came from your soul. Culture is powerful. Family is powerful. But nothing is more powerful than the truth of who you are underneath all of it. There's a stillness inside you that hasn't changed. No matter how many years have passed, there's a knowing that's older than any opinion. There's a presence that was never wounded, even if your heart has been. That presence is awareness. It's not shaped by conditioning. It sees conditioning. It watched you take on beliefs like armor. It watched you shrink to fit into expectations. It watched you say yes when your soul meant no. But it never judged you. It never left. It just waited. Waited for the moment you'd remember, you're not the mask. You're not the shame. You're not the roles. You're not the broken stories that got handed down like unwanted heirlooms. You are the one who sees those stories now. And that means you are free. You don't need to blame anyone. You don't need to fight your past. You simply need to recognize that your essence was never touched by it. Like a diamond buried in layers of earth, you have always been whole, covered, maybe, but never damaged. The work, then, is not to become something new. It's to uncover what's already here, not with force, not with striving, but with presence. You don't have to rip off the mask. You can gently peel it back, layer by layer, with kindness, with curiosity, with breath. And as you do, you might begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time. A quiet sense of homecoming, not a dramatic transformation, but a soft return, a remembering of what it feels like to simply be you, without apology, without performance, without defense. That's what healing really is. Not fixing, not proving, but remembering. You were never your conditioning. You are the awareness that noticed it all along. And the moment you stop believing the old stories, you make space for new ones. Stories that come from your soul, not your fear. Stories rooted in truth, not in survival. So if you're tired of carrying the weight of who you think you should be, maybe it's time to sit down, exhale, and ask the most powerful question of all, who am I, without the mask? And listen gently for the answer. You won't hear words. You'll feel space. And in that space, you'll remember your essence was never lost. It was just waiting for you to come back. 6. The present moment is the only door. There's a place where everything begins. And that place is now. Not the now we rush through, glancing at our phones or counting down to the next thing. Not the now we try to use for productivity or control, but the real now, the living, breathing stillness that exists beneath the noise. The one you can't hold on to, but can only enter. And here's the quiet truth. This moment is the only place your real life is happening. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, only here. I know how tempting it is to live elsewhere. The past is familiar, even when it hurts. It has a shape we know, The future gives us something to chase or something to fear. But the present asks you to be, not as a role, not as a name, but as presence itself. It asks you to put everything down. The plans, the regrets, the fixing, the proving, and to return to the breath, to the body, to the stillness between your thoughts. We spend so much of our lives either rehearsing what might happen or replaying what already did. But both are made of the same thing, memory and imagination. Neither is here. Only this moment is here. And this moment is sacred. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't have to feel spiritual. Sometimes it just looks like washing the dishes with your full attention, or drinking tea without rushing to check your phone, or noticing the way light rests on your hands as you breathe. That's presence. That's home. You see, pure awareness doesn't live in concepts. It doesn't live in stories. It lives in this breath, this heartbeat, this single, quiet inhale. That's where truth is. The more you try to find it with your mind, the more it slips away. But the moment you drop into your body, into your senses, into the stillness of right now, you remember what's always been here. And what's been here is you, the real you, not the one trying to fix everything, not the one measuring how far you've come, not the one trying to awaken, or heal, or transcend, just the one who is. And from that place, something extraordinary happens. Life becomes enough. You're no longer waiting for the next moment to finally feel peace. You're no longer chasing worth in the distance. You're just being fully, honestly, gently inside, the only place where life has ever truly happened. Now, I know it sounds simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. The mind will try to pull you out again. It will say, we need to think about what's next. It will whisper, you should be doing more. It will drag you back into worry or nostalgia or guilt. That's okay. The practice is not to fight the mind, it's to return, again and again, without judgment, like returning to the breath when it's wandered, like returning home after being lost. Each return to the present is a small miracle. It softens the nervous system. It reopens the heart. It reminds you you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are here. And here is enough. In fact, here is all there is. All your past is stored in this moment as memory. All your future is imagined in this moment as possibility. But the moment itself, that which holds everything, is timeless. That's why presence feels so healing. It doesn't fix your life. It reveals your life just as it is, just as you are, with nothing missing. And once you've tasted it, even for a second, you'll know this is the doorway, not a distant mountain to climb, not a state to achieve, but a return to what's real, again and again. So, if life feels too fast, if the noise is loud, if the world keeps asking you to be somewhere else, just pause and come back to the sound of your breath, to the weight of your feet on the floor, to the warmth in your chest. Don't chase the moment. Just meet it. It's been waiting for you. Because awareness doesn't live in time. It lives in you. Right here. Right now. 7. Stillness is not emptiness. It's fullness without grasping. There's a reason silence makes so many people uncomfortable. It's not because silence is empty. It's because it's full, and the mind doesn't know what to do with fullness. It didn't create. You see, the thinking mind is like a builder. It wants to measure, fix, categorize, improve. It's brilliant at solving problems, planning, analyzing, and when you need it for that, it's a gift. But when you enter silence, when you sit with no plan, no problem to solve, no story to continue, the mind panics a little because it can't control stillness. It can't own it. And so it assumes, if I can't shape it, it must be nothing. But that's where the misunderstanding begins. Because real stillness, the kind that meets you when everything else fades, is not a void. It's not lifeless. It's not blank space. It is alive. It is the very womb of creation. Just like music isn't only made of notes, it's made of the space between the notes, the pause before the sound, the silence after the chord fades. That space is not absence. It's presence pure, potent, undisturbed. Stillness is like that. It holds everything, but it doesn't cling to anything. It's the space in which insight is born, where intuition speaks without words, where creativity arises without being forced. And yet, because it's so subtle, we miss it. We've been trained to associate value with doing, to believe that if something isn't loud, productive, or visible, it doesn't matter. So we rush, we fill the calendar, we multitask, and then we wonder why we feel empty, while avoiding the one thing that's never been empty at all. Stillness. Not the forced kind, not the performative kind, but the kind that holds you like an old friend, the kind that doesn't ask you to change, or prove, or fix, the kind that just says, be here. That's all. At first, it can feel unfamiliar. When you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, when you sit and let the moment be exactly as it is, the body might twitch, the mind might rebel. You might hear thoughts like, this is boring, you're wasting time, nothing's happening. But if you stay just a little longer, you begin to notice something beneath the noise. A subtle warmth, a soft awareness that isn't doing anything, but feels completely whole. That is the fullness I'm speaking of. It's not full because it's crowded. It's full because it's complete. There's nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing to earn. And here's what's so healing about that. In this stillness, you remember that you're not valuable because of what you do. You're valuable because you are. Not someday, not when you get everything right. Now, in this breath, in this pause, with nothing added, with nothing taken away, you are enough not because you proved it, but because you always were. And from that space, real creation flows. Not effort, not pressure, not striving, but flow. Just like the seed doesn't push itself to become a tree, it rests in silence, in soil, in stillness, and from that, it grows. You don't have to push so hard to become yourself. You just have to stop running from the silence that already holds who you are. It's in the quiet moments when the world stops demanding and you stop defending that you begin to feel the truth of your being again. Not as an idea, but as an experience. And once you touch it, even just for a few seconds, you'll know this stillness is not a blank space. It's not a retreat. It's a return. It's where your soul catches its breath, where your nervous system softens, where your real self, the one before the roles and stories, gets to rise without effort. So the next time silence comes to visit, don't rush to fill it. Don't try to escape it. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Let it show you what you've forgotten, that you are not a machine. You are not a performance. You are not defined by your speed. You are a living expression of stillness itself. And you don't need to grasp it. You just need to rest in it. Because the quiet you've been avoiding is the very fullness you've been longing for. 8. Letting go is not weakness. It's strength. There's a moment, often quiet, often private, when you realize that holding on is hurting more than letting go. It doesn't always come with fireworks or clarity. Sometimes it's just a deep, tired exhale, a soft whisper inside that says, you don't have to carry this anymore. We live in a world that worships control. We're taught to grip tightly, to fight, to push, to manage every outcome, to hold our thoughts like shields, to hold our pain like proof, to hold our expectations like lifelines. And we're told that letting go of control, of resentment, of stories, is weakness, that it means giving up, that it means losing. But here's the truth I've come to know. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is coming back. Coming back to yourself. To the part of you that doesn't need to struggle to feel whole. To the strength that doesn't roar, but rests. Thoughts will try to convince you otherwise. They'll rise up like children, loud and persistent, demanding your attention. But what if? But you have to. But if you don't hold on, something bad will happen. They mean well. Those thoughts, they were shaped by past pain. They were taught that tightness equals safety. They don't realize they're choking the very peace they crave. And so, they keep talking. They tell stories, spin futures, replay old wounds because they want to stay relevant. But you don't have to fight them. Fighting the mind only makes it louder. Trying to silence thoughts only gives them more fuel. What you can do is stop feeding them. You can stop offering your full attention. Stop assigning them the role of truth teller. Stop following them like they know where they're going. Letting go isn't forceful. It's gentle. It's not a push. It's a pause. It's the sacred act of saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm choosing not to follow you right now. That's strength. To sit with discomfort without collapsing. To witness chaos without becoming it. To feel fear and still not grip tighter. That is courage in its quietest, most powerful form. Letting go is not abandoning responsibility. It's releasing over-responsibility. It's no longer believing that you have to control everything to be okay, because you already are okay. And the more you soften, the more you'll see the things you were clinging to often weren't holding you back. They were holding you together when you didn't yet know you were whole. So bless them. Bless the roles, the defenses, the old ways of thinking. They helped you survive. But now you are ready to live. And to live fully, you have to open your hands. You have to loosen the grip on that version of yourself that was never yours to keep. On the story that says healing has to be hard. On the belief that freedom must be earned. Because in the moment of letting go, something beautiful happens. The mind quiets, the body softens, and you begin to feel yourself again. Not the performance, not the mask, but the presence that's been patiently waiting beneath it all. This presence doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't cling, or control, or perform. It just is. And in its stillness, you remember, letting go was never about weakness. It was about trust. It was about faith. Not in the outcome, but in your ability to meet whatever comes with grace. When the mind tells you, but what if it falls apart, you can smile gently and say, then I will meet it with open hands. Because true strength doesn't come from gripping. It comes from presence, from the willingness to be here, now, without needing to reshape the moment. Letting go is not something you do once. It's something you practice, moment by moment, breath by breath, like a tide that knows when to rise and when to fall. You don't need to be perfect at it. You just need to be honest with yourself. Ask, is this thought helping me or keeping me stuck? Is this belief giving me life or draining me? Am I clinging out of habit or holding with love? And if it's time to let go, do it slowly. Do it kindly. Do it with reverence. Because the moment you release what no longer serves you, you make space for what does. And in that sacred space, you meet yourself again. Not the self shaped by fear, but the one that's been free all along. 9. No mind is your natural state. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from fixing anything. It comes from no longer pretending to be someone you're not. We spend so much of our lives trying to become better, become more spiritual, become successful, become someone worthy of love. But here's the quiet truth. Most of us don't learn until we're tired from all the trying. You don't need to become anything. You only need to stop pretending. Stop pretending to be the version of you that never feels doubt. Stop pretending to carry strength when what you really need is softness. Stop pretending to have it all figured out when your soul is longing for stillness. Because underneath all that pretending is presence. And presence doesn't need a script. It just is. This is the heart of no mind. It's not about erasing your thoughts. It's not about being blank or emotionless. It's not a state you have to strain to reach. It's what happens when you stop trying to do awareness, and instead, allow yourself to be awareness, like a calm lake that reflects everything without effort. No mind is not forced stillness. It's natural clarity. It's the kind of peace that arises when you're no longer tangled in identity. When you stop chasing the moment and start meeting it. In no mind, you're not floating off into space. You're more grounded than ever, more here than you've ever been. Because there's nothing pulling you into the past or dragging you into the future. There's only this breath, this feeling, this now, and it's enough. The mind will tell you that presence must be earned, that you have to work through all your issues first, that you need to meditate for years or read 100 books. But the truth is much softer than that. The truth is, you've never left presence. You've just been distracted. And the more you believe the distractions, the more distant your natural state feels. But it's never truly gone. Because it's not something you create. It's something you remember. No mind is not a performance. It's a return. A return to the you that exists before thought, before story, before striving. It's the child who laughs without a reason. It's the elder who sits in silence and needs no explanation. It's the space between your thoughts that doesn't need to be filled. And when you rest in it, even for a moment, you realize that life doesn't need your constant commentary. It just needs your attention. Not your judgment, not your labels. Just your presence. That's all. From that place, even ordinary moments feel sacred. You're not watching the sunrise and trying to make meaning out of it. You're just with it. And somehow, that's more than enough. You're not sitting with a friend planning what to say next. You're simply listening. And in that listening, love flows naturally. You're not meditating to get somewhere. You're simply noticing what's already here. This is no mind. Still, open, effortless, not passive, not numb, but deeply alive in the most honest, unguarded way. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to maintain it. Because it's not a task. It's not something fragile that breaks if you fail. You don't have to hold on to it with tension. You just return to it. Again and again. When the mind spins, when the world pulls, when the voice inside gets loud, you come back to the quiet space behind it all. The space that doesn't need fixing. The space that sees everything clearly, simply because it is clear. Like water that settles when you stop stirring. Like snow that falls gently when the wind fades. You don't force no mind. You fall into it when you're done performing. And maybe that's the greatest act of healing. Not trying to become enlightened, but resting as the awareness that never needed improvement in the first place. So if you're tired of thinking your way into peace, if you're tired of proving your way into worth, pause. Drop the effort. Not because effort is wrong, but because grace begins where effort ends. Sit, breathe, and let yourself be seen, not by the world, but by the silence within you. It already knows who you are. It always has, and it's never asked you to be anyone else. 10. Creation begins in consciousness. There's a quiet shift that happens when you stop chasing reality and start realizing you're part of creating it. For most of our lives, we're taught to look outward, to chase success, to manage circumstances, to fix what's broken out there so we can finally feel okay in here. But what if it's the other way around? What if life doesn't happen to you, but through you? What if the reality you're living in isn't something to pursue, but something you're already shaping, moment by moment, through your own frequency of being? It sounds subtle, I know, but this is the difference between surviving and co-creating, between living on autopilot and living on purpose. You see, your consciousness is not passive. It's not just watching the movie of life unfold. It's part of the projector, part of the script, part of the light that brings the scene into form. When you observe life with clarity, with intention, with presence, you are not just a witness. You are a participant in how the world reveals itself. This is not a spiritual idea meant to inspire hope. It's a principle echoed in both mysticism and science. In quantum physics, we're told that matter exists in a state of potential until observed, that nothing fully becomes until consciousness touches it. And in spiritual teachings, we're told that what you feel, what you expect, what you believe, sends a signal into the field of possibility. But here's what most people miss. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you're being, not your effort, not your affirmations spoken through gritted teeth, but the quiet frequency you emit through your state of awareness. Because energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right things, but if underneath, you're filled with tension, fear, doubt, that's what the field listens to. It doesn't hear words. It hears alignment. So ask yourself gently, what am I broadcasting with my being? Am I asking for peace while vibrating in anxiety? Am I seeking love while carrying unworthiness? Am I dreaming of abundance while fearing lack? This isn't a judgment. It's an invitation to align not by force, but by clarity. Because creation doesn't begin in action. It begins in awareness. When you observe the world from fear, you shape it through defense. When you observe the world with openness, you allow possibility. This is why presence matters. Because every moment, you are making contact with potential and giving it form. And no, that doesn't mean you can control every detail. Life is far too wise and mysterious for that. But it does mean you are not powerless. You are not a victim of randomness. You are a point of consciousness in a vast living field, and your presence has weight. When you stop trying to push reality into place, and instead start meeting it with grounded presence, you begin to notice. Things move, people shift, opportunities unfold, not because you forced them, but because you stopped resisting and started resonating. That's what creation really is. Not hustle, not force, not scripting your life into neat little lines, but tuning yourself, like an instrument, to the frequency of what you wish to experience and allowing life to meet you there. This is not fantasy. This is responsibility. The deep responsibility of knowing that your awareness is a sacred brush, and every thought, every emotion, every act of attention paints the canvas of your experience. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are a thread in its weaving, a note in its music, a spark in its becoming. So instead of asking, what should I do? Sometimes the more powerful question is, what state am I in as I do it? Because the state is what creates, the frequency is what speaks, and the field, the universe, the quantum, God, life listens, not with ears, but with resonance. And when you begin to live from this truth, you stop begging life to change. You begin to become the change, not by pushing the world to look different, but by showing up as someone who already is. And that's when the world starts reflecting you back. Not the old story, not the fear, but the truth. You are not just here to witness reality. You are here to dance with it, to shape it with presence, to walk through it with clarity, to create not with pressure, but with your being. So if life feels heavy, if your dreams feel distant, if you're tired of pushing pause, and ask yourself, what am I believing? What am I broadcasting? What am I creating just by the way I see? Because creation isn't out there. It's right here. And it begins in you. 11. You are the bridge between form and spirit. You are not trapped in a body. You are not just a spirit floating above it. Either, you are the meeting point, the bridge, the place where heaven touches earth. For so long, Many of us were taught that the body is somehow in the way, that to be spiritual, we must transcend it, overcome it, escape its limitations. That form is lesser. That matter is a distraction. But what if the truth is softer than that? What if form is not the enemy of spirit, but its expression? What if your body is not a cage, but a canvas? What if your humanness is not in conflict with your soul, but is the way your soul gets to move and breathe, love, and remember, you are not one or the other. You are both. You are spirit in form. You are form lit up by spirit. And that changes everything. Because once you stop trying to escape the world, you start seeing it for what it really is. Not a mistake, but a miracle. This life, this breathing, aching, beautiful, unpredictable life is not an obstacle to enlightenment. It's the very soil in which it grows. You came here to feel, to touch, to break open and soften and fall down and get back up again. You came here to know what it means to walk through the rain with bare feet and still hold something sacred inside. This body, with all its fragility, was never a barrier. It's a doorway. It's how your soul gets to taste strawberries, how it gets to cry over a song, how it holds the hand of someone dying and knows without words that love never leaves. None of that is less spiritual. In fact, it might be the most spiritual thing of all, because divinity isn't just found in the stars. It's in the way you notice the light hitting your kitchen counter. It's in the way your chest tightens when you hear the truth. It's in the way you keep showing up imperfect and honest and willing every day. That is sacred. And you are the one who holds both. You are the stillness and the movement. You are the breath and the one who breathes. You are the silence and the sound. So stop trying to choose between spirit and form. You don't have to pick a side, because you are the side where they meet. The more you honor your humanness, the more space your spirit has to move freely. The more you ground into the body, the more clearly your inner wisdom speaks. You're not here to escape life. You're here to see it with clear eyes, to live it with an open heart, to walk through it not untouched, but awake. This is what it means to be the bridge, not to float above the world, but to walk through it with presence, not to reject the physical, but to infuse it with meaning, not to bypass the pain, but to let even your pain become holy. And here's what's beautiful: the more you embrace this role, the less you feel torn. You stop dividing yourself into spiritual and not spiritual. You stop seeking escape in every practice, every teaching, every transcendental high, and you start inhabiting your life fully, softly, completely, because now you know you don't need to go somewhere else to find the sacred. You are the sacred, not because you're perfect, but because you're present, not because you've risen above your human messiness, but because you've chosen to be here, in the middle of it, with your eyes and heart wide open. So, if you've been trying to leave yourself behind, and come home to the body, come home to the breath, come home to the world, not as a place to escape, but as a place to embody truth. You don't need to transcend form. You just need to remember that form is not separate from soul. It is soul wearing shape, texture, its skin, and time. And you are the still point where it all meets. The bridge between what can be touched and what can only be felt, between what changes and what never has. And when you finally stop trying to run from either, you discover that both have been waiting to embrace you all along. You were never separate. And now, you're here. Not just watching, not just listening, but something deeper. You're feeling this, not just with your ears, but with that quiet space within you that's always known, always listened, always waited. It's not in front of you. It's not behind you. It's not something to reach or earn or achieve. It is you, that still presence, that subtle awareness, The one that's been quietly witnessing every step of your journey, even when you forgot it was there. You don't need to chase awakening. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to become more spiritual, more evolved, or more worthy. You just need to stop and remember, because nothing's missing, nothing has ever been. The truth you're seeking, it's not hiding. It's not buried beneath layers of techniques or teachings or 10 more years of healing. It's right here, sitting quietly beside you, breathing with you, not asking anything of you except your presence. And I know that can sound almost too simple, too quiet for a mind trained to seek, solve, and strive. But the truth doesn't shout. It doesn't fight for your attention. It just waits gently, patiently, until you're ready to see again. And maybe, just maybe, now is that time. Maybe it's time to stop running, stop fixing, stop becoming, and start being with what is, being with yourself, being with life not as something to conquer or control, but as something sacred to witness and touch. Because awakening isn't a lightning bolt. It's not a moment of fireworks and fanfare. It's the quiet gasp of recognition that says, "Oh, I never left. I just forgot how to see." And now, you're seeing again, seeing not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of presence, of compassion, of reverence. You see your thoughts now, but you are not them. You see your patterns, but you are not trapped in them. You see the world, but now you know the world is also seeing through you. You are the observer. You are the observed. You are the moment between the breath and the one who breathes. And here's the most healing truth of all. You've never been alone, not for one single heartbeat. Because awareness, this quiet presence we speak of, has always been with you, not as a separate guide, but as your own true self. So, what now? Now, you live, but you live with your eyes open. You walk this world not as someone trying to escape it, but as someone who belongs here. You feel the wind, and know it's not just air. It's life moving through you. You look into someone's eyes, and no longer see separation, but the same consciousness, wearing a different face. You sit with silence, and it no longer scares you, because now you understand silence is an emptiness. It's truth without noise. You don't need more answers. You need more presence. You don't need to reach the top of the mountain. You just need to remember the stillness that was already in your step. And maybe, just maybe, that's the whole point of this journey. Not to become someone new, but to gently shed everything you are not, and return to the quiet miracle of who you've always been. So stop looking outward. Stop waiting for some perfect moment, teacher, or sign. You are the moment. You are the teacher. You are the sign. And the moment you remember that, the seeking ends, and the seeing begins. Welcome home.